What's up, guys? This is Doctor, and welcome to another episode of the FPL Fantasy. What a crazy game week we're going through. It's Thursday afternoon. We still have the North London Derby, so we're looking forward to it. But before going into this episode, which we have prepared for you, I would like to say hello. Welcome back again for the second time to my co host, Joe. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good actually. We'll get into our discussions of this game week that is wrapping up today, and I think more people would have their head on the chopping block than you would expect with my score. But we talked about it last week, so I'm excited to get in. I'm excited to move on to the next game week, and let's get into it.
Before moving on to the next game week, let's talk about this game week. Joe, you are free hitting. He didn't follow the doc's advice. I'm not saying you should follow the doc's advice always because I have my moments, but he didn't go for KDB, who went nuts last night. How is your game week going?
See, the whole joke that I've been doing on Twitter this whole game week is team boring is winning right now. And that's the whole thing, because it was when I first did a free hit, before I was like, I'm going to do these insane moves for my free hit. I was looking at like a Salah KDB double up as far as my premiums, and just kind of had, for the most part, all the bits and pieces that everybody else was looking at in my team. And I sat there and I looked at that and I was like, all right, I'm at 310,000. I feel good about where I've landed this season. I'm not winning FPL. Yes, I can maybe make it into the 100K, but I want to have fun with it right at the end. It's been a hectic season. So I decided to go with a risk. And one of the risks was Mahrez, which felt like an amazing play because he was rested in the UCL game that prior week, and he also, I believe, he is the has the highest returns out of the whole Man City team. So I'm like, okay, so I'm getting their one of their best returners on the year, and I'm getting a guy that's rested. Oh yeah, he's even if he comes on for one game and then he's subbed on for the other, it'll be great. But no, Pep was still UCL Pep and had no clue what he was doing, and goes, yeah, we'll win. We'll win. I'm not really worried about it. I'll leave Mahrez on the bench and give him a good 13-minute jog at the end of the second game. So that one got me, and my vice captain was on Sun. Luckily, luckily, I wasn't one of the people that got the Salah captain. I knew what I was getting with my captain. I knew the potential, I knew the ceiling, and I knew the bottom. People that got that Salah captain, you got to feel bad for it because they thought that they were going to pull in 600 points this game week, like we did when I feel like most of us triple captain in Salah. And so really, I'm on the other side of the coin on the captaincy. I mean, KDB exploded this week. The last double game week that went insane, I was on the Salah side of things, and I got what 84 points or something like that Salah got that week. So it's the game. You win, you lose. I'm seeing a lot of talk about variance. It doesn't really seem like variance. It's kind of like what I expected to happen, but what I hope didn't with my insane team. But I don't know. When you're in the middle of it, I'm sure it feels much more like variance than it looks from the outside.
I disagree. I think it's big variance. You wouldn't have bet that KDB will score 4 goals versus Wolves prior to the deadline, right? You wouldn't put your house on it. You would. He scored out of like 1 point something xG as well. So eh, the variance is huge. The luck factor is there definitely. Yes, I thought he will score well this game week. I just couldn't fit him in my team. That's why I said to most people on Twitter whenever I tweet, like I have 30 minutes to kill, ask me a question. I always said, if you are in a high rank and you want to keep the rank, just captain Salah. If you're chasing, just captain KDB. We expected him to maybe do well, yes, but to go on 30 points whole. I didn't see it coming I wouldn't see it coming in a million years as well. So yeah, that's the variance for you. Also, Joe being Joe, I was actually whenever KDB was scoring and I realized Joe doesn't have him, I was something was eating me inside. I was getting a bit angry because Joe wanted and wants always to go to the ultra differentials. So it's the Mares with the 3% ownership kind of things. KDB in the top 10K, he's 27%. So he is a differential. So he is a slightly lower than I thought he would be, but still he's a differential. But Joe being Joe always wants to go for the ultra one. You were extremely unlucky. Here is the variance. You're extremely unlucky for two benchings for Mahrez. We expect most people expected that he will at least start once and maybe come off the bench, and that's good enough for Mahrez to hold. So you're very unlucky with that. You got pepped, and speaking of pepped and speaking of roulette, somehow Klopp learned from Pep and he started rotating his star player, his most highest scoring player. So all of a sudden, Salah's benched within 3 games twice, which we didn't see it coming as well. So yeah, it's one of those game weeks. I had a very good game week. People are blinded by the KDB hole, but I bench boosted. I got I think 122 points, so I'm happy with my return. I jumped 50% of my rank from 3K to 1.5K. So I'm quite happy with my team because as a team they played well except for Salah. So you win some, you lose some, like you said, or in Gattuso's famous words, sometimes maybe good, sometimes, So yeah, this is FPL for you, right? There are ups and downs.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'll disagree with you on this week was 100% agree. I didn't expect 4 against Wolves. I expected probably 3 goals and a couple assists from KDB. Rightfully so, I expected about the same from Salah. And I think you had mentioned something else about KDB kind of overshadowing everything else that has happened in this week. Perfect example. How many points did KDB get? He got 30, right? How many points did Sterling get?
28.
Yeah. Everybody's completely looking past that. And I understand that it's because KDB is owned by, you said, 27% or whatever of the community. So there's more people talking about it. But I'm like, I mean, here's Sterling, who arguably has had one of the most underwhelming performance seasons of himself to date in the Premier League, and he comes out and he gets 28 points. I'm like, man, that's variance. That right there is variance.
And you want to hear something funny? Reeve, who we had as a guest on this channel twice, so if you haven't watched those episodes, just check them out. They're on the channel. So Reeve actually sold Sterling after holding on to him and captaining him once in the past 2 weeks. He sold Sterling for KDB. So it's funny, and he sold I think Mount to Diaz. So he tweeted something which is his point differences, and it's like both players scored 50, but if he didn't do the transfers, nothing would have changed, which is amazing. So yeah, there is variance. He had Sterling, moved him to KDB, and they virtually got the same points. He was fuming during the week, like he
Yes.
was just WhatsApping me, look at this FPL and all those kind of stuff, and I was telling him, well, you have another game, let's see what happens, and in this game both score highly, so you just pick your team and hope. This is where the luck element comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But well, the skill comes in trying to predict where the holes go, where the consistency comes. Because FPL is also about consistency. If you do consistently well for 38 game weeks, you should be in the top, let's say 100K. So yeah, you have the variance. You got a bit unlucky. How many players you have from tonight's match?
I have, I think, I think only 2. I think it's just Saka and Son.
Well, let's hope Saka compensates for
Yeah.
that, the KDB, right?
Yeah, only need him to score like 6 goals against Spurs, but then I want Spurs to
Yeah.
win. So I guess I need Bentancur to get, what, 7 goals? So that way it doesn't affect my rank at all, really?
Yeah, well, Son 7 goals unassisted or assisted by like Hoiberg and Dyer and
Yeah.
yeah. Just watch him get off now after saying this, watch him get off injured in like fourth minute and all of
Yes.
us be fuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
100%.
FPL for you. Yeah. Right. Is there anything else you want to cover about this game week, or shall we move on to the next game week?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Right. Before moving on, also, I want to mention that at the end, after moving on to the next game week, we have a free hit draft that we prepared that we're going to discuss. Where none of us is going to free hit. Both of us are out of chips, but we see a lot in the community that are going to free hit in game week 37. And also, the top 10K, I think 48% still have their free hit, if I'm not wrong, or was it 38%? Anyways, so a big number of the top 10K have their free hit available, so we expect big free hit game week coming up. So we've put up a team that we suggest we would have gone for if we free hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, and not my crazy team. What I would consider the boring team.
Anything below 3% ownership is Joe pick. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. All right, so I have my team up right now. Currently, there's nothing that has changed from 2 game weeks ago. I'm toying with some transfers. There's probably going to maybe be one for Werner up top. Might bring in. I'm leaning. I feel like I'm feeling like Watkins is gonna be more successful than Richarlison. Richarlison is feeling good, but he has some very difficult fixtures because he has a Brentford that's really playing their game and feeling themselves, and then he has Crystal Palace, who this season and basically every season ever is always a really tough defensive team to break through. So my chips land on Watkins more than Richarlison for this week with the fixtures, with both of them having the same amount of fixtures since they're doubles. But who knows? The games have to be played, and I have to be proven wrong. But
So, aren't you worried about the Watkins possible injury? And if he's injured, what is your replacement?
if he's injured, I think I just don't necessarily even worry about a forward transfer up top. Honestly, that's how little faith I have in Richarlison going out there and just hauling, just smashing it, scoring 12 goals against Crystal Palace and 15 against Brentford.
Famous last words.
I Yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
just knowing the quality of the teams and the defensive plays that they're making right now, I think it's going to be really tough for him. I think I'm almost better sitting with Werner with Leicester if I wanted to play double forwards than bringing in Richarlison. Once again, I know that puts me on the stake. All everybody else has to do is just light the fire. I'm aware. That's where I stand. I the other transfer that I'm looking at, which it sucks because he has a double, is Coutinho. He just hasn't been the player that we expected. And I have a free hit, or a free transfer, not a free hit. I have a free transfer. So it's like a null and void. It's not going to necessarily cost me any points to go from a double to a double, but feels bad to do that, but it's also probably the right play considering Coutinho's form right now. The rest of my team I feel pretty confident with. I mean, I feel like, at least in the community, I was one of the first people to rock the Kulusevski, Son, Kane triple up, and I think since I brought them in, there's only really been 1 or 2 bad game weeks with them, and they've just been hauling points massively. Why change it? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Saka, he's got a tough fixture with Newcastle. That's kind of why I made the switch. You'll notice Foster and Ramsdale, I switched them and I put Foster in. Not chasing points, not because Foster did amazing in 36. I'm not doing that. Once again, I think there's better potential for Foster to get points from Leicester than Ramsdale with Newcastle. Newcastle's becoming a force. They have money pumped in. They brought in a decent amount of players. Howe is really starting to get get the lads firing and get them playing some good football. And I'm terrified to, at least in a defensive aspect, bet against them on that. And then everything else is pretty cut and dry. I'm keeping Alonso in. I have Matip, I have Trent, I have Cancelo. I'm more than happy with that back line. The only one that people might be frustrated with is I have Mount, but Mount is he ebb and flows. He can go out and score like this game week. He basically saved Chelsea, but then he might go 2 game weeks without anything. And at the in the current state of the season, it's not really a big deal. But I'm hedging bets that he's going to get me something this coming game week. That's kind of where my team stands. What do you think about my team, Doc? What are some thoughts you have, maybe?
Well, I like the. Honestly, I'm extremely jealous of your triple Spurs attack, right? If I would put if I would put a bet on people holding pending tonight's game, right? Because if Arsenal win tonight, it's over. Top four is over, right? So, yeah, the motivation will change, maybe for the better, right? Some teams just play better when they're free of shackles, like as we see, like for the Brentford and stuff. So you never know, but I'm extremely jealous. I can't lie. I tinkered during the week trying to fit at least Kane in and have the double up Son and Kane because I can see them scoring well, especially if they win tonight. They have Burnley, one of the worst. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they are one of the worst teams in the league defensively this season. I think they are 18th when it comes to expected goal conceded. So I would like to target that, and then they have Norwich in game week 38. One of the reasons I haven't considered KDB this game week because I was looking into those game weeks for Son and for Hurricane possibly, but I can't fit Hurricane in. So I'm extremely jealous of that. Enjoy having them. I think they will do well for you. When it comes to your transfers, definitely Joe transfers. I'll watch and I would wait for the press conference of Gerard, and if he says Watkins is out, you would love this pick. I would look at Ings, Danny Ings. We saw him doing well in the last game. He's low owned. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I hope it's under 3%, so you might go for him. So he has 2 nice games, and I think Ings is a shout for you here at this point.
Yeah, I think Ings is one of those weird players where he's a backup striker now when he was the stud of the team at Southampton. But also the man's getting old. He's made of glass. But you see his experience. If you look at that Liverpool game, he came on for just a few minutes and he was being a handful for the whole Liverpool back line, which it's good to see because he's still got it. He's still got that killer instinct. But it's hard to pull in Ings because sometimes he's not going to play. More times than not, it feels like he's not going to play. But I completely get it. If Watkins is injured, probably a route that I'm going. The only thing I worry about him is with him being a little beat up at sometimes, are they going to let him play the full double, or are they going to put him on and then maybe he shows up for 20 minutes or 10 minutes in the last game week, which Ings is one of those players. He can make something happen with a minute left on the clock. So yeah, I like that. I like that shout out too.
And I'm not against also rolling because that will give you a chance to pull a Joe and make like 4 or 5 transfers in game week 38, right? Because this is when you have 2 free transfers and like 4 transfers is just a -8. So I'm not against also rolling, but that would be my suggestion. Maybe tackle the double. Of course, when we move to my team, we're going to talk about it into the free hit team, but Richarlison's the obvious choice here, right? But it's not Joe choice.
Yeah. Like I said, those defenses scare me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the defense's argument. Like Crystal Palace, I think they are 4th when it comes to being the best defense in the league when it comes to from a statistical point of view. So Vieira's doing a phenomenal job. I can't believe he's doing it with Nathaniel Klein, for example, at right back, but Vieira is doing phenomenal job. And I agree, the defense it will be stubborn defenses. Brentford are pulling miracles in the past 5, 6 game weeks as well. They're playing very well defensively. You shouted them out 5 game weeks ago. I remember that clearly. And every single game week, whenever they keep a clean sheet or they play very well, and I'm like, oh my God, Joe was right about this. So yeah, those 2 games, they at home, Everton play million times better at home than away. We saw that even this game week,
Hmm.
but they're facing tough oppositions.
Yeah. What do you think about the Coutinho thought, where he hasn't really been doing much? He's part of the attack, but he's like the eighth assister after everybody else has touched the ball.
Well,
What do you
with
think
Coutinho,
about maybe moving on him?
with Coutinho, it's a tough one because also he's been rotated right for the
Hmm.
past few weeks, and also he's not performing because Gerard moved to the kind of the two striker formation with Ings and Watkins, which kind of hinders Coutinho's returns. So it's a tough one. But if Watkins is injured, I can see him going back to 4-3-3, right?
Yep.
And there an opportunity where Coutinho plays in his like kind of left wing, go on the inside and take a finesse shot into the top corner. So it's
Yep.
a really tough one. I would wait on Watkins news. If Watkins is honestly, I wouldn't sell Coutinho at this point. I wouldn't waste a transfer on him. It's he has a nice double relatively, and the ball like he can score well. So it can be one of those that you regret selling. So I wouldn't look into selling him this game week,
Yep.
because I've seen some free hit drafts as well on Twitter and YouTube and stuff, and some of them have Coutinho.
Oh
So
no,
if
my
a
team's
free
template. I gotta get rid of him.
oh my god, it worked the opposite. So. But anyways,
Yes.
but yeah, I've seen him in some drafts. So when you see a player in free hit drafts, it's weird to sell him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, it really is just wait till the press conferences. We'll see what comes out then, but those were my initial thoughts.
We're actually planning or considering recording this on Friday, just waiting for some press conferences and the North London derby to end. But it is what it is.
Here we are.
Yeah,
Want me to throw up your team now, Doc?
yeah. Let's go to my team.
Okay. Cool, cool. Got you up. You're good to go.
So here's my team. It's on the screen right now. It's not a bust team. I haven't shuffled around because again we're waiting for team news, right? We're waiting for injuries, we're waiting for suspensions, we're waiting for North London derby to finish. But I have a small plan in mind. So according to team news, I'll react accordingly. Being at my rank, I'm gonna play a defensive game here. I hate doing that. I think it's the wrong way to play FPL, is just looking at ownership, looking at effective ownership and trying to block kind of the risks, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna get Richarlison some way, somehow, if he's fine, and if the news and how I'm gonna get him depends on the news. So if Watkins is injured and he's not gonna feature both games, it's gonna be a straight swap for me, which is Watkins to Richarlison. If Watkins is fine and he's going to play both games, my transfer will be Laporte to a 3.9, maybe to a Crystal Palace defender like Anderson, and then upgrade Pookie to Richarlison. Of course, the formation will change. I'm going to have some benching headache, which is, you'll be happy to hear that. I'm considering benching Reece James, which is highly likely if we get the team news. So, well, he got me a hold this game week, so I'm happy about him. But yeah, it's quite a possibility. As you can hear and see, that I'm a bit not sure what I'm gonna do because it's Thursday. By the way, the game week is on Sunday, so I urge everybody to hold their transfers because the FA Cup final is on Saturday. So Chelsea versus Liverpool, Salah can get injured, Mount. So even James, which will change my transfer.
Hmm.
Another reason I'm selling Laporte, yes, he's marked orange here, but the main reason I was considering selling Laporte because of all the injuries Man City have at their defense. They look extremely shaky. Their first team defense, most of them are injured. Diaz, Nathan Ake. So they don't. They're playing Fernandinho as a defender, as a central defender. So that's one of the main reasons I want to sell Laporte instead of anybody else in order to fund Richarlison. That's mainly a funding move. I really don't like it, but I think it's a rational thing to do. So downgrading him even to Zinchenko, if I really want a Man City defender, I can downgrade him to Zinchenko, for example. But I'm looking
Mhm.
into bringing the money back into my starting 11 after the bench boost. So that's the main reason I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So those are my planned transfers. The starting lineup is still not decided really. So stay on Twitter. Probably I'm gonna waffle about it and ramble about it. But yeah, you'll know more. But at this point, I don't have a decision made. Just the only decision is defend my rank because I really like my rank, and just get Richarlison and kind of combat those all free hitters because a lot of the top 10K will free hit and will have Richarlison in their team.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you know my thoughts on this team. You got James in there in contradiction to what I talked about my team. He's going up against a tough Leicester team. Tough for James. He's probably going to end up pulling out 1 point.
Not
But
too, definitely.
and then you got Foden too. You
Right?
just bring in everybody I don't like in. I see. You're the anti-Joe team.
I'm the points team. No, I'm a big fan of Foden, and I think I brought him in the right time. He halted the last 2 game weeks. This is when I brought him. So FPL is all about timing. And yes, Foden has been frustrating for owners for the 10 game weeks before that. But I think I timed it right. I looked at him a while back, and I saw it's the right time to bring him in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're sitting in the right mindset also, just trying to figure out what's going on with that forward up top. I think if you're bringing in Richarlison if you were to bring him in conjunction with Watkins, if you wanted two forwards up top, I personally like that move. I'm As I've said, I'm more of a fan of the Watkins over Richarlison, but I know the whole Twitterverse is against that idea, and probably 60% of FPL out of the 9 million people, and I'll take some of the zombie teams too, put them on my side to make my numbers look better too. But I your team's also like very very similar to like the mindset that I would be in if I wasn't doing the Spurs triple up, and if I wasn't going to bring in or have Mount on my team. You can't go wrong with a City midfielder. I'm not saying his name. Son, Saka, Salah, and Gordon is actually one of the guys that he's just been a steady performer at his price, especially for Everton this this year it seems like. So he's a great shout to have on your midfield lineup. And it's kind of weird saying that because especially a guy at his price range, you expect him to kind of be more bench fodder than your starting guy that you're depending on points. But I think having him's a great move for your team, not just your team, but everybody. The universal your team. And
Yeah, it's kind of a.
Cash is paid off for you. So and Cash has been playing really good. So I can't knock having Cash. Only defender I can knock is James. That's it.
And I don't disagree with you. Yeah, it might look boring, but it does the job, right? It gets you the
Mhm.
points. And the reason for you it might look boring is because everybody owns them. Because again, we talked about in the skill and luck episode, right? There is a template and there is a reason why there is a template. It's not like out of thin air, right? Because those are the best players, kind of, that you expect them to perform. But again, I don't like playing this game, but I think Richarlison will be highly owned and with high effective ownership. I would like to finish in the top 10K this season because I don't think this will happen anytime soon with the amount of people, with the amount of content, with the amount of players that are coming every season. I think the top 10K should become like the top 50K or maybe the top 1%. So this year, the top 91K should be like the holy grail, but we are dinosaurs and we're stuck with the top 10K. It's ridiculously difficult. I've been the top 10K for a while now, and it's ridiculously difficult to keep up and gain rank in the same time. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it might be boring, but it's a way to play the game, right?
oh yeah, and that's the thing is, yeah, effective ownership is going to be high, and FPL theorists put a poll out yesterday or 2 days ago saying, how big is effective ownership in your strategy as an FPL manager. And I think it definitely depends on what your rank is, but my response was essentially, hey, it doesn't really matter too much for me, but the teams that move up in ranks are naturally going to glide with effective ownership because everybody is bringing in the players that are either great players, looking at Salah, or are players that are on form that are doing really good. Someone like Watkins or Son, but Son could also be a great player. I put him in there, but I know not everybody does. So it's it's just one of those things that's kind of interesting. And then you have guys like me in 300k that are like, yeah, I'm gonna bring in these players because they're doing well. The stats say they should get something soon. Hopefully it's this week. Let's bring them in and see how it works.
Also, people, especially when you're on the Twitterverse, right, and when you are on social media, you would think 300k is a terrible rank. Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal rank among 9.1 million, right? But because you're in a kind of a bubble, last night it felt everybody had KDB, right?
Oh yeah.
Remember the week that Bruno from Newcastle, I can't really pronounce his surname, scored like the 2 goals in the double game week.
Yeah.
It felt literally everybody had him on Twitter, right? And at the end, it was like below 1%. So it's just how it feels. So 300k is ridiculously respectable rank among 9.1 million player base. So
Yeah,
um,
and I'd be interested. I don't know what you think. We can talk about platform right here, but I'd be interested in even doing a thing on how to actually analyze your rank throughout the season, because there are people in the summer off season, but there are people on Twitter, if you're part of the community, that are like, oh, you're 300k rank, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, I mean, it's still good. I mean, obviously there are people that are 1,000 like you, Doc, but you kind of get pushed off if you're not that top 10k. That's that golden badge.
yeah. But also take myself, right? I'm 1.5k now. There are 1.499 managers higher than I am. So are you going to stop listening, for example, to whatever I have to say? Um, I hate saying this word and I always repeat it on Twitter. I never give advice. Never ever give advice, right? It's your team. If it goes well, congratulations. If it goes bad, well, move on to the next game week, next season, whatever, right? But I give opinions. I always give opinions. So if you ask me who should I get, I give you an opinion. Whether you take it or not, that's your decision. But we are content creators, right? So our voice is out there. We're on social
Oh yeah,
media. So do you listen to? For example, FPL Focal, right? He was first in the world in the beginning of the season, literally first. Well deserved. But he's in I think 3-4k now because the season is very long, right? So did you listen to him when he was literally number one in the world, and do you stop listening to him now? No, because
for
kind
sure.
of he knows what he's doing.
Oh
And
yeah.
you listen to another opinion. You do not blindly follow someone because it's a bit stocky, to be honest, and weird. So
Yes.
um
Yes.
so yeah,
Tell me what you're doing, Doc, please.
I do get those messages, by the way. I do get them every once in a while in my DMs, and I try to reply to everybody, but sometimes it's a bit weird, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. All right. Well, we've talked a ton about that. Do you want me to pull up the free hit that we had talked about at the beginning real quick?
Sure. So on your screens right now is the free hit team we prepared. You can see that I had a big hand in preparing it because it's boring, of course, according to Joe. And I don't. Good morning, Joe. So
Hey,
yeah, it has a couple of nice puns. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. What do you think about it, Joe?
I like some of it. I hate some of it. So
It has your favorite player ever, which is Zaha.
I was gonna say, I mean, I get it. Zaha's getting points. I understand, but why do we have to bring him in? Why do we have to give him the ego trip? If he even looks at FPL, he'll be like, oh, geez, I'm 3% owned. Wow, I'm a big deal.
Well, let me explain kind of the rationale when I put this team together. Right? As you can see, I have point 0.6 in the bank. This is according to the budget that I have. Some people can afford better, some people can afford a bit less, but it's within budget. You have Dean and Cash in defense because I think we should utilize those fixtures relatively.
Hmm.
Crystal Palace and Burnley can score, but the way that Steven Gerrard uses his fullbacks is just going forward. So I expect maybe an attacking return here and there. Burnley are terrible defensively, so maybe an assist for Cash, a goal for Cash possibly, and also Dean on some free kicks or set pieces. So yeah, I have Watkins as an attacker. He can be Danny Ings if Watkins is injured, so you can replace that one. Also, if Tottenham lose tonight, Harry Kane can become KDB instead of Gordon, for example, that you can see on the bench. Also, you can play Gordon instead of Madison. So you can tinker with this team. But as I mentioned almost every episode now, that there is a spine that I would build from. Also, I have Robertson over Trent because I think Robertson now is more likely to start 2 matches. Klopp all of a sudden learned how to play roulette, so I'm not going to be extremely confident. But now Trent is more likely to be benched than Robertson, since Robertson already got his rest and he's on some corners and everything. So this is kind of the main rationale that I had in mind. Madison as a punt, he scored a goal last night, so he plays Watford. They're both away games, but he's on set pieces. He can get a return here and there. So some players, yeah, you can move them around, but there is a spine of like Dean, Robertson, Cash, Salah. You have to have him there. Pickford because of the possibility of a clean sheet as well. Salah, you have to have him in there. I think he'll do well versus Southampton. He's been historically doing well. Southampton is one of the worst defenses in the league in this calendar year, if not the worst, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm mistaken, actually. It's one of the worst, but yeah, they concede a lot of chances. I think he'll do well. The double up of Leicester if they win tonight.
Yeah, I like the Cash Dean double up in the back. I actually saw a stat at the beginning of last game week that I think was using the Fix or Scout or one of them, a player comparison tool, and it was with Dean, and I think there was Cash, there was I forget, there were like 4 or 5 players, and Dean is actually the guy that like blew everybody out of the water. There was only like 1 or 2 areas where he wasn't actually beating the other players that he was being compared against. So that was something that I hated him at Everton because he always seemed like a trap, and then you brought him in, and then he was a trap, and then you took him out, and he still didn't do anything. But he seems to be definitely flourishing under Gerrard. He's obviously getting into the final third, getting touches, throwing crosses in, getting a couple shots here and there, which if you want points from a defender, that's what you're looking for. So my tone has changed since some of our previous videos from probably like 10 game weeks ago. I think that's a great 2 defenders to actually bring in the back. I will disagree with Robertson because if you go back, Trent was actually rested in 35 against Newcastle. Robertson was rested in 36. I think they're basically just as likely to be rested as each other. My personal preference is I want to bring in Trent rather than Robertson. I can get, though, wanting Robertson over Trent. I live in the world of it's Trent or nothing, baby. So that would be my change there too. And then I think really everything else kind of feels right for a free hit for sure, because you have Madison, who if anybody's going to get points, it's going to be him, and it's probably either going to be him scoring or him through Vardy if Vardy is back and ready to go. But who knows if Vardy plays 2 games. He's old and glass like Ings. He's going to die after 93 minutes. Zaha, why? I get it. Okay. And we know that I love the Spurs boys and Richarlison and Watkins sitting up top together. I think that's a killer attacking line if you have it. Like I said in my draft, I'm not one to put all my eggs in the Richarlison basket, but I will definitely split them up amongst the two. So
Fair enough, fair enough. With the Trent issue as well, it's kind of a budgetary issue.
mm,
Also, I wanted to mention, if I had a free hit in hand, I would still be relatively uncomfortable. It's one of those feelings, right? Like the previous free hits where whoever free hit it 33, 28, I think it was, or 30, there was a relative comfort of having a free hit in hand. Like, okay, I'm gonna get those players, they're gonna do well, there is not much risk, right? This game week's free hit is very risky. A lot of people don't have a City asset. Cancelo can go crazy versus West Ham. I don't. He's not on this draft because I think other players will do better. But again, one game week variance can be high. KDB can go crazy if you don't have him in your draft. Some people don't even have Salah. They're replacing him with KDB or Son.
mm,
So Salah can go crazy. Trent can go crazy if you sell him. Reece James can go crazy. Alonso can go crazy. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So if I had a free hit in hand and I was free hitting, I wouldn't be extremely confident. It's one of those weird moments. Yes, the upside can be high because you can get the players you want, but also the main players, the main threats to ranks can be covered easily without a free hit. I'm getting Richarlison, I have Watkins. If not, if he's injured, then that's done. I have Cash, I have Gordon. So those are the ones that you are targeting on your free hit. The non-free hitters can cover them easily. So the upside is not that big. It's big enough to free hit, but it's not that big, and the risk is quite high. So it's a very weird situation when it comes to the free hit. And well, if you don't free hit now, then you have to free hit 38, right? So
yeah,
it's a very weird situation with this free hit.
yeah. I think the thing that makes 37 and 36 such enticing free hit game weeks is the fact that it isn't so just really cut and dry, like how 30 was, 33, 28. Those game weeks where it was like, you're not going to be up against really a bench boost. Probably the only people that are going to be really competing with you are the people that have planned this whole thing out and have all the red lines and pictures and everything all over the board. And I I think it's easier to be okay with a free hit then, but the reward, as we saw in 36, is much higher if you go with it in these 36, 37 game weeks, which I I like it. I like it. I like it a lot more than those plain old boring free hits. The word of the game week and last game week.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's riskier. So if there was one on this draft, do you see one player that comes to your mind that's not there you would bring in your free hit draft instead of this one in front of you?
I mean, I talked about Trent. He's kind of a interesting guy that I would like. I
Mm.
I think Salah to KDB, I might be more in favor of it this game week than others. If you remember, I don't really have I don't have Salah in my team either. So I feel like I'm more comfortable to be okay with that. Just looking at this, but I don't think Salah is done for the season. So buyers beware if you make that transfer. But I think those are the two, and that KDB to Salah is the you know the new one for you.
So one of the things I usually use my laptop in order to, I'm old-fashioned that way, but sometimes I go even more old-fashioned and I use a pen of paper. So this is kind of the draft on pen and paper, and then I did it on FPL.team. One player that kind of is not in this draft that I would consider bringing instead of, for example, Madison is Jota. Watching him on Saturday, I would watch him on Saturday. If he doesn't start, I would consider bringing him instead of Madison because he will play versus Southampton. I mentioned he's going to be a great differential. He's your type of player. He's going to be ultra differential and he's going to be rested versus Southampton with a terrible defense. So I think Jota, and I would consider Anderson from Crystal Palace. kind of those are the players that I feel they are missing out of the draft. Of course, there will be a million other players, but I kind of was like 50-50 here and there between those decisions. So I have Jota, Madison, Jota, KDB, Madison, Anderson from Crystal Palace, and Watkins and Inks.
Worried
So
about
kind of
rotation
those
with
are the ones
Diaz?
that spring to mind. I think if Diaz starts the FA Cup final, I think Jota will start Southampton.
That makes
And
sense.
it looks like Diaz, Mane, and Salah are the starting lineup team. So
Yeah.
probably they will start the FA Cup. And if they do, I think Jota has a great chance of starting Southampton.
Yeah. So you're saying if Diaz starts the FA Cup, he's an even greater differential than Jota. So if I wanted to bring in a Liverpool midfielder, bring in Diaz if he starts. Okay, I got it. Putting it in the bank. Transfer's ready to go.
You realize you don't get points for percentage owned, right? No?
Uh
Bring
uh
Reed back.
oh.
Bring Reed back.
Uh oh. Yeah, yeah. You guys can explain the game to me, please.
No, but I see the temptation for going ultra differential, right?
Yeah.
Especially with your target rank
Mhm.
and your rank and everything. But you also want a player who starts, right? So,
Yeah.
and I
And
think Jota's isn't Jota lower owned than Diaz,
probably
or is it
now.
me?
Diaz is the new Liverpool hotness right now.
Yeah. So Jota will be the
Mhm.
ultra differential, isn't
Yep. And that's actually, a little differential in the higher ranks is definitely something that's Remy from one of our earlier videos. He actually does a lot at the end of the season. Even if he's leading his mini leagues, he tries to get a little bit of a cushion there by making at least one of his starters just the key differential that can change the game for him. So I'm all for differentials.
it? All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the FPL Fantasy. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, show us some support. We'll see you on Twitter as usual. Joe, would you like to say goodbye to our audience?
Yeah, I echo everything that Doc had said. Like, subscribe, interact with us. Love talking about FPL and within the community. Bring your friends. They'll enjoy it. Have them sit them down. Have them watch the video. I think they'll appreciate what we do here. But thank you for watching to the end of the video. In all seriousness, and till next time. But let's get these points this game week.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.
All
Peace.
right. Peace, everyone. Bye.